Welcome to Redefining Real Estate. I'm Rylan.
And I'm Morgan. Expect a mix of education, humor, and authentic conversation as we explore all things real estate.
Let's jump into today's episode. So with this being like our first episode, if you will, we should probably just run through like some basic questions.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Something easy. What made you pursue real estate?
Ooh, that's a great question. So when I was growing up, I had two big influences in my life.
Okay.
Revolving around work ethic.
Yeah.
So I had my grandpa who was you could call him a little bit of a business mogul.
There you go.
Will.
Okay.
So he grew up in a family with 16 siblings, and so it was, fend for yourself type of situation, and he grew up creating businesses just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
He owned restaurants in Houston. He owned a radio station here, an auto parts store. Obviously he worked for all of these things, but
yeah.
I think it was his background that really motivated him to do more and create this legacy for his family. So I saw that growing up, and then I also saw my mom, who was a corporate girl boss.
Okay.
She worked her way up through the ranks of corporate healthcare.
Yeah.
And when I looked at both of those two options of examples in my life, I was like, they both look amazing, yet I don't know which direction would be right for me.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, anyways, I knew I wanted to do something business related. So when I went to college, that was my goal, is get a business degree and figure out what I wanted to do.
Okay.
I ended up initially going the corporate job route and doing computer programming and whatnot after I finished with college, and that was not the move. It was very stable. It was great, but I felt like I had no impact on anybody else in the community. It was so unfulfilling.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so I just thought, I can't do this for the next 40 years of my life. And at the same time, COVID was going on, and I was researching ways into financial freedom.
Okay.
How can I stop this corporate lifestyle and try to get into something where I can retire early and actually figure out what I want to do. And so that's how I started doing research into real estate investing. And at the same time, my mom had gotten her real estate license and started doing it part-time. And so having access to all of the information and things she was doing really spurred my interest, and I thought, why don't I just get my license and see what happens, and kind of just went from there.
So how long were you in the corporate job of computer programming?
Well, I really tried to build my resume when I was in college. So I was working in tech jobs part-time while I was in college. But after I graduated, I worked for 2 or 3 years.
2 or 3 years.
Yeah, as a data analyst and then as a systems administrator.
How long did it take you to really realize that's not where you wanted to be?
Oh, probably about a month. It was really quick. I was I was so used to the structure that I had created for myself with college classes of I would basically have a schedule from 8 to 5. I recreated that for myself when I was in school. So I had classes, and then I had 2 part-time jobs that I would fill my time with. And so I was sitting at a desk, and I was like, this ain't it. I'm so bored. I have nothing. Not that I had nothing to do, but it was not the same type of.
Right. Yeah, and like you said, it wasn't very fulfilling for you. You didn't have an impact with anybody. Which it's understandable. I feel for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my story. But how did you get into real estate? What did you hear?
I think my first impressions of real estate were probably like everybody else's. You just kind of dress nice and you get to open doors for people.
Right. Big money.
Yeah, and so after looking into it, the first thing I say would be what made me pursue it was I'm a big environment person. I was going to school here at the time, and I wasn't really just satisfied with my environment. I felt the people around me were just very unmotivated, just forced to be here, and that's how I felt too. I wasn't necessarily passionate about school. So I just wanted to look into different opportunities all throughout high school and in college too. Everybody that I was employed under, they were all some sort of entrepreneur themselves. They had started something in their garage. It grew into something bigger and bigger. Now they're in a warehouse doing something. So anytime I ever had a job, it was always for that mindset, which I appreciated because I learned so much from them. And not necessarily the like software part of all like the business and everything, but mainly just like the mindset and like the attitude to bring with like every day, you know.
Yeah.
So that was a big one for me growing up. And then also I just wanted to have that, like, I wouldn't want to say like fast pace, but I wanted to always be like pushing faster and faster to like, you know, keep earning more. So that was definitely something that kind of like sparked my interest without a doubt. And then also we have a family ranch down in like South Texas area. So growing up down there, like on the holidays, summers, all that stuff, just learning to appreciate like land and everything that goes into it, that was always a big deal for me as well. So looking into some career options, I was like, well, I love, you know, real estate and I love land, and I also love like fast-paced business stuff. So real estate was kind of just there, you know, and wanted to get my license and just start learning as much as I could, honestly. So
yeah, so it sounds like it was more of like almost like the personal growth mindset that most entrepreneurs have, of like, even though you have this job and obviously that's important to you and you're passionate about it, like you're also growing personally, like throughout your business and you know, with your employees, etc.
Yeah, without a doubt. And they after seeing those few businesses that I did work for, you know, they always called themselves like just regular old dudes, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I was just some regular old guy until I started doing something else, you know. And now I, you know, do all this and can afford that and can provide for my family this way. So for me, it was almost just like kind of just like a rite of passage. Like I knew that's where I was going to be. So really just like learning as much as you can right now to set yourself up long term.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Like that was my mindset as well, of like the real estate investing side, you know, with personal growth and like pushing yourself to do more and creating this legacy for your family, but also pushing yourself personally to like get out there and get outside of your comfort zone and do all the things that you know that you can do, but that most people are terrified to actually start doing. Yeah,
without a doubt. There's a few times I would catch myself like doing tasks slower. Yeah. So you could like make more money in a way, you know, like hourly, like salary based stuff. And in my brain, I'm like, I really feel like I shouldn't be like moving this box at a slower pace so I could make more, you know. It's like, why don't I move 2 boxes and then make more, you know. So that was also like a big thing for me, is I like to not just like take my time to do stuff, but really just like be as productive as you can, right? You know. And I just feel like I wouldn't really find that anywhere else. But yeah, that was kind of where I was at. But that's how I kind of got into it, as far as what was interesting for me, if you will. Yeah, and this idea that we can create our own lifestyle and create our as much income as we want is definitely something that drew me into. And as most people know, like as real estate agents, we don't work 9 to 5. Like we work 24/7, 365. Yeah. And with that, I mean, I'm curious, when you got into real estate, was it what you thought it would be? Like, how did your first deal go, and how were your expectations around that? Yeah, my first deal was pretty cut and dry, I want to say. It was some parents looking to purchase a second home for their student that was going here. They initially were looking into renting. Okay. That was their thing. That's how I got connected with them. They were like, hey, like, we have a son going to vet school. We want to potentially look into some rentals for him. Nothing too crazy. And I was like, okay, like, cool. Like, that's y'all's game plan. That's my game plan. Like, let's figure out what we're doing here, and let's, you know, find ourselves a good spot. Yeah. And through conversation, they had a lot of concern with property condition and then property maintenance. So they were like, what happens if the dishwasher breaks? Like, what do we do? Right, that's fair. Yeah, so walking them through that, you know, letting the landlord have to come do some things, have a trip out there. They just didn't really like that answer, which was, it was interesting. And we had kind of communicated more on the topic, and it turned out that the price range they were looking at for rentals, they like were still in the price range of owning a home. And so I just, you know, ran them through what that would look like long term, you know, with the equity that you could build while your son's in school. Right, 4 or 5 years of them. Yeah, and we ended up, you know, running a loan estimate sheet on it just to look at things, and turns out it made more financial sense for them to actually purchase something. Right. And so helping them guide them through that process was definitely like beneficial for them, and also like very like rewarding, and made me feel great about myself,
Yeah.
helping them determine what was actually the right process,
Yeah.
and they we found something in Bryan, only like 10 minutes from campus,
Yeah.
so pretty close, and it checked all their boxes. They're the landlords now, and
Yeah.
they're that was my first experience, but they're definitely a lot more comfortable with where they're at now versus where they were initially looking into. But yeah, that was my first.
And that was new construction?
It wasn't.
Or newer?
It wasn't new construction, but it was like 2018.
Okay.
Or something like that.
So for a parent who's looking for their student, obviously they're not trying to find something that needs a ton of work, especially in their case.
Very low maintenance. Yeah, the roof was just replaced, or not replaced. It was updated or something. It was a newer roof, and then everything else was very, very low maintenance.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's really interesting. My first experience was different only because it was during like COVID times where interest rates were super low and everybody was buying real estate.
Yeah.
But when I first started, I didn't personally know anybody who had the money to buy real estate.
Right.
So I was just trying to put myself out there any way that I could, and I ended up joining like a bunch of real estate investing Facebook groups here locally, so that way I could learn. But I ended up like just posting a lot of stuff of like, okay, well, if you were to buy this property, this is how much you could rent it out for. Like just posting literally like the most basic information you could about a property to provide value to them.
Yeah, and I think investors, their thing is like they don't want to take too much time each property, so if you can just kind of run a summary,
Yeah, so that's exactly what I did in these Facebook groups. So I'd be like, yeah, this one just got listed, you could rent it out for this much, like this is what the comps would look like. And so anyways, I connected with these investors who were flipping in Brenham, and they ended up starting here in Bryan-College Station.
Okay.
And I don't know if they know this, but they were my first clients that I ever worked with. And the first deal that I ever did with them was basically like a fourplex type property where the rental income was like $3,000 a month, and it was listed for like $180,000, which is insane, right? Yeah. But it was like a little tiny like 1 bedroom, 1 bath house, and then it was another like converted garage, which was a like studio, and then it had a 2-layer like garage apartment basically type situation where it had a downstairs and an upstairs. I think that were 2 bedroom, 1 bath each. Yeah. So that gives you an idea of the type of property it was. Like it was older, and it did need some work to it, but anyways, they ended up getting under contract with multiple offers. Okay. And that was so crazy to me. I was like, oh my God, like this is the lie. Like this is so easy. I mean, internally I was freaking out the entire time. Right?
Well, I think everybody does,
Yeah, so that was the first deal we did, and I really just kind of drove home this idea of like how relationships are so important in our business, whether it's with our clients or with the other agent on the other end of the deal. And so I took a lot of time to like tell the seller's agent, this is who I am, this is what I'm about. And I think that really made an impact on him, because after that first deal we did with him, he was like, oh yeah, by the way, I have another client that has the same type of property, like just a couple of blocks down the road, and I'd be open to like selling it to your guys off market. And it was like a basically a 2-door property. So it was a main house with like 4 bedrooms, and then a garage apartment with a 1 bedroom, 1 bath. And they ended up getting that one under contract for like $150,000. Needed some more work, but yeah, it was crazy. That was my first kind of, experience with real estate myself personally. Yeah. Besides like buying my own home, but it was way different working with investors who are very much so just like, okay, if the numbers don't make sense, then we're not moving forward.
Yeah. I think a lot of our clients are mainly like a little bit more like emotional based things. They definitely take their times with their thought process, but the investors typically are a lot more just, if it doesn't make sense on paper, then we're not pursuing that.
Yeah, which is funny because it tends to be a lot more risky as an investor to like, get a hard money loan, or, basically get a short-term loan with a higher interest rate to go in and flip this property. And like, if your numbers are off even by 5 or 10%, like, it's game over. But again, during that time, everybody was buying real estate. I wish I could have bought some too.
No, was it common to post in Facebook groups back then?
Not really. I mean, there are agents in our area that have their own kind of Facebook groups set up, but they're not real estate related. They're like real estate adjacent to like attract people who would be looking at real estate, like, you know, like a mom's group or, you know, a women's connect group, things like that. Yeah. But this was like literally called like Bryan-College Station Real Estate Investing or something. And so it was only people in there like wholesalers, investors, and very few realtors were and they're actually posting about like how they could provide value,
like deals or something.
Yeah, it was more like they're realtors and investors, so they were more interested in buying than anything else.
Gotcha.
So
that's crazy. I feel like that, like just like a little bit of outside of the box, you know, just thinking a little bit more about something and being able to connect with people more, because like you said, you didn't really know anyone that was ready to go, you know, so like using a little bit different of a strategy to find that business is definitely something that I think we need to see more of in our industry. You know, it's just trying a little bit harder. But that's awesome that you were able to like actually convert something like that. So that was cool.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you know, on that same note, that was one of the biggest reasons you and I decided to start this podcast, is to show people that, you know, we're not your typical realtors. We're trying to think outside the box and be creative. And I mean, at the end of the day, something you mentioned earlier is like, we are just normal people. We're not like the selling sunset realtors, right? We're not like going around with our Lamborghinis and Gucci bags and having photo shoots at every listing. Yeah. Like, we're literally just regular people trying to help out our community.
Yeah. And I think that's like just a fresh perspective to have, you know, versus we're some sort of like celebrity in the area and we're just going to be above you. But yeah, I think that just builds a lot more like trust through what we're doing. Right. The whole like goal is just to build a community around us that, you know, believes in what we do, and we're just here to help people, and that's really, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. You know, we're not necessarily trying to go for like a hard sale, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, so much of our job is finding out what people's goals are and then helping them get to that end goal.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if everyone had that same mindset day to day, they would see a lot better, you know, relationships being built, because whenever you can help someone achieve their goal, like that's what we're after, you know.
Yeah, so for everybody that's listening out there, I hope you understand what our goals are, you know, and what we're about here. We really just want to be your go-to resource for real estate here in Bryan-College Station, but even if you're doing research anywhere else in the United States, like, we're happy to help with any questions that you have, and try to be an approachable source for you, to where you don't feel like, oh my God, like they're gonna try to sell me something just for asking a question, or like, you know, they're driving around in their Lambos all day, like they don't have time to answer my questions, right? So we hope we can build a community here to create that approachable environment and hopefully keep everybody informed as to what's going on in real estate, whether you're buying, selling, looking to invest, or like literally just curious about what's going on in real estate.
Yeah, on that note of what's going on, I mean, evolving with new real estate trends is one of the hardest things, I feel like. I feel like there's new things every day. So staying up to date on that's super beneficial. That way you're not too blindsided when you're looking into things. But yeah, evolving with real estate trends and really just like staying up to date on everything going on regarding real estate is definitely something that I think is very valuable in today's market.
Yeah, I agree. And everybody knows a real estate agent in our area. Like, let's be honest, everybody knows a real estate agent. And,
oh yeah, easily.
And it's like, of course, you could go with someone who does it part-time, or you could find someone who, you know, has been in the industry for years and years. But the most important thing beyond the experience that they have is, of course, that they are staying up to date, because like Rylan said, I mean, we're seeing changes in this industry as a whole, like every single year. Which many of you may have heard on the news, some changes in our industry recently, but even here more specifically in Bryan-College Station, like in our market, the seasons are so different from even when I first started in 2022, 2021 to now. Like the climate of the market and, you know, what we're able to negotiate, how we're able to get different deals for our clients, like actively working in the market is so important, so we could share those stories and help you guys understand what may be applicable to you guys, even if you're just doing research, like see the different opportunities that are out there for you.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think you really hit the nail on the head with that one. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We hope you found something useful, or at least had a good time listening.
Yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, feel free to subscribe or share it with someone who might enjoy this content.
And if you have any questions or topics you want us to cover, reach out to us on Instagram. Everything will be linked below for you.